It is no secret for those who know me that Acnologia is by far my favorite villain, and to take it a step further, my favorite character in all of Fairy Tail. No one else in the entire manga exudes the same level of menace, authority, or presence over the story in the way that he did. The mere mention of his name struck fear into the hearts of all who heard it. He was an unbridled and damn near unstoppable monster who rose to the absolute pinnacle of power and ultimately needed 7 dragon slayers and the combined magical power of an entire continent to finally end his reign of terror. Despite all of the criticisms his character underwent, it's undeniable that his rap sheet inside the world of Fairy Tail is one that not many, if any, have come close to matching. Then, there is Zeref, who is arguably Hiro Mashima's greatest written character, and one of the most underrated villains in all of shonen history. These two antagonists earned their monikers and respect from the audience through their actions and incredible writing, which is why the current and supposedly final antagonist of Mashima's sequel to the original fairy tale entitled 100 Years Quest is so utterly lackluster. So, in this video, what I'll be attempting to do is go over all the reasons why I see him as such, and then provide some solutions I feel will not only bolster his repertoire and turn him into a villain that can stand alongside his predecessors, but also make him a character that's memorable outside of his aura and design. By the way, if you're enjoying the videos on this channel, or just this video so far, make sure to drop a like. It helps out more than you could ever imagine, and I thank you. Now, in all actuality, I don't really think it's fair to compare Ignia to Zeref and Acnologia, and then proceed to make fun of him because he falls short of their greatness. Because of course he does. Those characters' stories are finished and take place in a manga with over 500 chapters. They both had almost like a decade of time to be developed, and in all retrospect benefited greatly from that time. Currently, 100 Years Quest sits at less than 200 chapters at the time that I'm making this video, and according to Hiro Mashima himself, the story of that manga is only about halfway finished. However, in this particular instance, fairness is for suckers, because first off, this isn't like the second manga that Mashima has ever made. From Rave Master to Fairy Tail to Eden Zero to Starbiter Satsuki to Heroes, the list goes on and on. He is very much a veteran of the industry with decades of experience that has achieved the highest level of success that I think a mangaka can reach. His familiarity with this genre is honestly, from a statistical standpoint, at least probably second to none, which is another reason as to why it's all the more confusing that he's done so little with the main antagonist of his primary series. Also, since we're comparing, the halfway point of the story for the original Fairy Tail manga is somewhere in the middle of the Grand Magic Games, meaning it's without question that even back then, both Zeref and Acnologia were far superior to Ignia, due to the events of the Tenro Island arc and all the respective lore that had been built up even before then, like the entirety of the Tower of Heaven, as well as Gildarts' injuries. And I know that I already spent a good portion of the beginning of the video talking about the accolades of Acnologia, but I feel it is important to actually delve a little deeper into what he accomplished during his time in the original manga. And before anyone asks, the reason why I'm just doing the previous King of Dragons here is because Mashima's intention with Ignia is very clear. He has been set up to essentially be the quote-unquote next Acnologia, and for whatever reason, some people actually believe that the minnow has surpassed the legacy of the Great White, and I will not have that. So here we go. Gildarts, the strongest wizard in the entire Fairy Tail Guild, mind you, attempted to complete the 100 Years Quest. Unfortunately for him, though, the first and only dragon he ran into was Acnologia, who proceeded to claim an arm, a leg, and an internal organ, leaving the guy for dead. On Tenro Island, after dealing with Hades, the Fairy Tail Guild runs into Acnologia, and with their magic concentrated into a unified mass, this seemingly devastating attack wasn't even able to leave a mark. And if not for Mavis and some handholding, the manga would have ended about 300 chapters too early. Speaking of chapters though, skipping some takes us right to the Tartarus arc where the Black Dragon returns to do battle with the reawakened Fire Dragon King. Now, admittedly, his performance in this bout is not as strong as before, but that is only due to the caliber of the opponent. He's up against the literal Fire Dragon King Ignia, who was considered one of, if not the strongest dragon on record at that time. Regardless of that title and all that strength, it really just amounted to a giant hole in the chest now, didn't it? And yeah, Acnologia may have lost an arm in their exchange, but if anything, that only added to his aura. And even with one arm missing, the secondary antagonist of the manga, the man cursed by Ankh-Saram, the man known throughout the land as the Black Wizard, the man responsible for the demons of Tartarus, the man who was the father of August, aka the strongest member of the Spriggan 12, who had so much magic at his disposal that he had garnered the title of Wizard King. That man, that guy, even with all his accolades, still, one arm or not, feared the true king of dragons. I could go on and on when it comes to Acnologia and his feats. Like, I didn't even mention him one-shotting God Serena in his base form, no less. The feats are just too numerous, and if I keep going on like this, I'll be here all day. So, instead, it's time to switch gears here and talk about Ignia and his respective accomplishments, because nothing quite highlights mediocrity like a comparison to your peers. Ignia first appears on the scene in chapter 19 of 100 Years Quest. Admittedly, this is one of the coolest entrances I've seen within Fairy Tail. Very menacing, very nice, and the anime conveys this scene with sublime confidence. It's done really well there too. After this moment though, Ignia is basically absent from the story till the 100th chapter, where he makes his entrance in the middle of a fight between Natsu and Suzaku. In doing so, he melts through the walls of a labyrinth that were previously thought to be indestructible. Inside said labyrinth, Ignia also provides the first real on-panel fight between two dragon gods. He and Selene duke it out in a pretty even exchange. Both land very decent and very respectable hits on the other, until Natsu interrupts, distracting the dragons. Ignia takes advantage of this and lands a cheap shot on Selene, promptly ending their fight. Now, I'm not going to go in depth here, but I truly hope that people can see the difference between Ignia's performance here and how Acnologia fared in his respective fight against Ignia. Anyway, the next time we see the Fire Dragon God is when the fruits of his labors have come to fruition. He brings about the true Dragon King Festival, where giant lacrima form thanks to the roots from Doggermog that not only unleash the true powers of the dragon gods, but also have the ability to turn regular humans into dragons. It's also worth mentioning that he's tanked basically every attack Natsu's thrown his way, and he also tied in a clash with Ferris of Earthland. She's a black wizard that attained some of Acnologia's power from his severed arm. For the most part, what I've listed here so far are all of his accomplishments in the 100 Years Quest manga, and it's not a lot. But I think what's the more pressing issue here is not the quantity, it's the lack of impact his actions have on our protagonists. To take it back to Acnologia for a moment, he was the sole reason behind the 7-year time skip that happened in Fairy Tail, which caused the entire guild to almost go under, and resulted in Lucy missing the passing of her own father. Almost every major action that the Black Dragon made throughout his life in some way affected Team Natsu and sometimes the entire Fairy Tail guild. The same just simply cannot be said for Ignia. So what's the solution? What does Ignia need to do for it not to be asinine to consider him a top-tier villain in the series? Well, the quickest and easiest way to gain some footing in that area is to have him kill off a major character. Whether that be Eleftheria, Gildarts, Athena, Makarov, Ferris, etc. If Hiro goes this route, the person needs to be of importance to the central characters, whether that be because of an emotional connection or they're simply paramount to the ongoing story. Another thing that could be done is have Ignia participate in more lengthy battles. because as of right now, he just has the one. Finally, I believe he needs to start affecting the other members of Team Natsu to a point where they start to have more of a personal and vested interest in defeating him, outside of the requirement for the quest and cause Natsu doesn't like him. As I said before, we're almost 200 chapters into this story, and so far, Ignia feels more like a major inconvenience with a really cool design, rather than another legendary final antagonist in the fairy tale anthology. But anyways, with all of that said, that is going to do it for this one, so thank you all very much for watching. I hope that you all enjoyed. If you did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe with the notifications on, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace out, everybody!